Welcome to Purpose After Sports, where we interview athletes to share their post-sport journeys and explore how they are reinventing what it means to compete. Today, I am lucky enough to be with Tessa Grossman. She is a former Division One softball player at Dartmouth, and competing at the Division One level and taking on the demands of Dartmouth are no small challenge. And she not only went through it, but has built an impressive path since. She earned her master's degree and became a certified coach and stepped into leadership roles in the performance world. Today, I want to celebrate those accomplishments, and I also want to dive into what it's really like to step away from the game and to create something new. So, Tessa, so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Of course, I want to start from the beginning, wherever you'll start with me. Um, what was a little bit of your journey and what did softball mean to you? Was it always softball? Were there other sports along the way?
Yeah, so my parents forced me, okay, they didn't force me, but they had me try a lot of different sports.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did karate, tennis, all the stuff. I hated soccer. That was way too much running from the jump. Um,
Understand that.
But softball, they put me in softball when I was like 5. And the story that my mom tells me is that after my first season, she was convinced there's no way I was going to want to play again because all I did was spend the whole season like drawing in the dirt. And when she asked me if I wanted to play again, I was like, yeah, of course I want to play again. And she was super confused. But
Yeah.
after that, it was like softball was it. And I pretty much only did softball from like 6 or 7 years old on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were going up through that journey, was it always, I want to continue playing at a college level of any sort, or did that come on later when you saw some opportunities present themselves?
When I started playing softball, the whole club travel ball scene was just starting to get big. A lot of the times you
Yeah.
still played rec and like went through the all-star phase. So I think when I made the jump to club ball, which was probably I think around 11 or 12 years old for me,
Hmm.
and that was kind of typical at the time, that was when it was like, okay, I think I want to play college ball. But I definitely had moments throughout like high school and where I started to get a little burnt out, or there were some moments where I'd like kind of step away and like figure out like, is this what I really want to do? And even like my perception of what I thought my college career was going to look like changed. Like I thought I was going to pitch in college. I actually ended up committing like as an outfielder. So
Okay.
even just like what my role was going to be by the time I got to college ball changed throughout my career. So it was an interesting path, but I enjoyed it.
I like you diving into that because I want to talk deeper on that subject of burnout because that happens. I talk to a lot of former and current athletes, and it can just seem from the outside like, oh, you've loved your sport for that many years. And I'll be the first to tell you there were times when you do something for so long, it doesn't matter how much you love it, where you just like hate its guts or you guys just are, it's like, I need that time away. Um, when making those decisions of needing to step back, what were your mental space like? What was it like to know, okay, I need to take a second?
I am very grateful because I think my parents helped me a lot with it. When you're
Yeah.
13, 14, 15, sometimes it's hard to understand like what burnout is or what you're going through or the emotional. And there's also so many things going on at 15 where it's like burnout is just like on top of everything else of being, a teenage girl. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful because I remember there being one clear moment with my parents where we decided to like take I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks off of softball. And
Hmm.
I can't remember if it was like eighth grade or early in high school, but regardless, we took a couple weeks off. And when the couple weeks were up, I like really missed playing already. And that was kind of like the reminder of like, okay, I really do enjoy this because there was
Yeah.
also a lot of pressure on my parents. And once again, like I don't think I realized it as much as when I was younger, but there's a lot of pressure on them to have to help me navigate like how do we get recruited? How do you handle not getting recruited when other people are getting recruited? How do you handle not performing well back to back weekends? All those types of things that like you don't really know how to handle when you're 14, 15, 16. And then like in the
Yeah.
softball world, and I think it might have changed a little bit now because of recruiting rules, but back when I was playing ball, they could recruit you in seventh and eighth grade. So like if you were like a really top recruit, like you're going to Oklahoma, UCLA, all those types of schools, like you're committed by eighth grade, freshman year at the latest. So it's like when
Yeah.
you see other 14-year-olds committed to UCLA, you're like, dang, am I like behind? And you're not,
Yeah.
but it feels like that.
No, I like that candidness of it too, because it can be so intense and overwhelming, and then, okay, your parents, it might be their first time going through it too, or trying to figure out how you help an individual go through that, so I like that perspective a lot. So, you also brought up another good point when going into college of, okay, I had this plan, this is the position I was gonna be, and that might have not been the path. I can be the first to tell you again, mine was the same way, and I just got to a mental spot of however I can get on the court, like, I'm gonna do it to where they need me. Was your path the same way? Was it a struggle of, like, "This is all I've known?"
It was Yes, my path in college was very unorthodox. So yeah, I got recruited as an outfielder originally, which I had pitched all the way up until I went to college, and I just decided that it kind of got to the point where I felt like I was trying to continue to be a pitcher, but I was like okay with it being over with. And I
Okay.
really had started to enjoy the offensive side of the game and really kind of came into my own as a hitter. And so going into college, that was like what I wanted to really focus on. And I went in as an outfielder, but my freshman year actually, they had a pitcher or two quit, and we basically had like 1.5 pitchers going into my freshman year. And so my head
Wow.
coach came to me and was like, "Hey Tess, like at the start of winter, like January, like 2 months before season started, she was like, 'Hey Tess, like I know you did pitch up until college. Do you think there's any way like you would be willing to pitch this season?'" And
As a
I was
freshman?
as a freshman, and I hadn't pitched at this point in like 8 months. I was
Wow.
so happy hanging that part up of my athletic career. Like I was okay. I was at peace with it. I felt like I had been pitching since I was like 9 or 10. Like I was okay.
Yeah.
But of course I said yes, because what was I gonna say? And
Yeah.
it was tough because and I don't really know if I ever talked about this, but like it was tough because I don't feel like I ever fully got back to what I used to be when I was like practicing so consistently as a pitcher before I stopped. And so it
Yeah.
was frustrating at times going out there. And there was some other, pieces of it too. Like I wasn't allowed to hit as a pitcher that year. So it was frustrating feeling like I was doing something that I was asked to do to be a good teammate, to be a team player, but then not being
Yeah.
allowed to do the one thing. And I fought my coach on it all year. I would like be trying to make bets like, okay, but if we do this, can I get an at bat? Okay, if we're up by this many, can I get an at bat? What about tomorrow? Okay, and they'd be like, Tess, like we just can't risk you getting hit. Like we just need enough pitchers to get through the season. Like we can't risk
Yeah.
you getting injured. And I was like, I'm not gonna get injured. It's softball. So safe to say, at the end of the year in my my meeting, my head coach was like, "Are you good to move on from pitching? We have more pitchers coming in." And I was like, "Fantastic, sounds great. I want to go back to hitting." But I am really grateful because it's like a cool bucket list thing, right? Like I got to pitch against some really big teams. I got to pitch. I'm from San Diego, so like I got to pitch against UCLA at UCLA, and like I feel like that was like a childhood dream type of thing right there. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of cool moments I got to have, but from there, I transitioned into first base. Honestly, I was just trying to find like whatever position would get me on the field, and I have played a lot of first base growing up, and so I was like, okay,
Yeah.
first base, like I think that's where I could maybe work my way into a starting position again. But it took some time. Like, the classic, I was a sophomore at that point. I felt like I should have been playing. And I probably wasn't ready to play retrospectively, which my coach
Yeah.
knew, but when you're 19 years old, you think like, why am I not playing?
Yeah.
But after that, finally my junior year, I finally earned a starting position. And so I started at first that year. And then my senior year actually was the start of COVID in 2020. So I actually never played a senior season. So very tumultuous career, I would say.
Oh my gosh. Yes, because you graduated in 2020 too?
Yeah, I graduated in 2020.
Okay.
So it was right at the start of COVID, and I remember because we were getting ready to go on our big like spring break trip, which that year we were supposed to go to California,
Yeah.
and the day before we left, they told us they were canceling our whole entire season. And I remember it so vividly, like me and my best friend on the team at the time, like we were standing in line at Starbucks in the library, and we
Yeah.
both got the email at the same time, and we just like both looked up at each other like just started like bawling, and they're like they're like calling our food, and we're like full tears, like middle of the library, like no one has any context as to what's going on. And yeah, and so because Dartmouth was an Ivy League school, like they they care a lot about their graduation rate. And so
Mm,
they basically told us like, listen, we're sorry, but you can't stay here. So like if you can have your year, we're not going to take away your year, but you have to take your fifth year somewhere else because you're going to graduate. Like you can't stick around.
wow.
So yeah, so at that point it basically became like a decision of like, am I going to try to take a fifth year somewhere else, or like am I okay? Am I okay moving on and just like letting my career, be what it was?
Yeah. And so you decided no more, like, what made that decision go, like, I can walk away and this is my career can be done?
So the interesting thing is I think going into my senior season, I felt very at peace that it was my last year. Like I was ready. Like I was like, I'm gonna enjoy this, but
Yeah.
I'm ready to start my life. Because at the same time, I was very clear going into college that I wanted to do strength and conditioning. The football aspect of it kind of fell into place as I went through different internships, but I knew going to Dartmouth that I was going to pursue a career as a strength coach.
Mm,
And so with that, I had worked a lot of different internships and really been very intentional in how I built my resume out throughout my college years because I wanted to be able to start working right away. And I also knew
yeah.
that while Dartmouth is obviously a phenomenal education, it doesn't offer any sort of like exercise science or physiology degree. The closest thing they
Yes.
had was like a biology degree. And that doing bio, that's a whole nother level at a at an Ivy League school. I took one look at the course requirements and I was like, okay, I know my place.
Yeah.
Let me go find something else to do. Um, so I combated that with trying to have as much experience as I could throughout my college career. So that way, by the time I, started to apply for stuff, I had so much experience they couldn't make the argument that I didn't have the proper degree. And since then, like I'm sure you've seen like sports performance, like you don't necessarily have to have an exercise phys degree anymore to be successful in the field, but at the time
Yeah.
that was kind of the status quo. So when COVID hit and our season ended and, we were presented the opportunity of like, okay, do you want to try to find somewhere to transfer or do you want to just eat your last year of eligibility and your career early? I had actually already accepted a grad assistant position with Illinois State. So like I already had like my post college set up. I was like really in the
Wow.
mindset of like enjoy my last season and then I'm really ready to start this career that I've been working so hard to set myself up for nicely, leaving college. So I decided to eat my last year of eligibility, which working through that was an experience in its own. But let's see, so we got kicked out of school March 2020,
Mhm.
and July 2020, I was at Illinois State in a graduate assistant coaching role. So the switch from being like an athlete in COVID to a coach in COVID within like 4 months was
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for it for some parts of it. Other parts of it, I think it was a tough transition.
Yeah, because talk to me through we have mine was 2022, or you know what I mean, 2020 as well.
Yes.
So, we got at least in basketball, I know some people didn't even get that, but our season, I got my senior night. But then, everything was cut off right after that, cold turkey. So, we talk about with Life After Sports the involuntarily leaving sports. And, sometimes you think that's from academics or injury or something, but like when the world shuts down, that's a whole nother thing. And then you're amazing and already have this opportunity. So it's like, okay, how do I push back all those things or do I close this door? And so I want to talk about you taking your grad assistantship at Illinois State because what is that like now of you still being so close to the sport, but maybe not even processing like mine is for real done?
Yeah, there would be certain points throughout the year that I think things really hit me. So like senior night, like we never had our senior night. We never had that
Mm,
celebration of our careers of, everything that we had done. And so I remember I worked with football and then I worked with women's gymnastics, tennis, and golf at Illinois State. So I ran gymnastics and I was really, really close to that team. And I think looking back on it now, in a way, it almost felt like I got to like finish out a couple more months with the team because
yeah.
personalities are very similar between gymnastics and softball, like very type A people, very loud, very bubbly, all that type of stuff. But I remember like their senior night, I was like, I remember getting in my car and just like crying. And,
Oh
part
my
of it was
gosh.
like just being happy for them, but it was definitely emotional to like see other female athletes have a senior night and like really acknowledging that's not something I'm ever going to have.
Oof.
Um, and that was a tough moment.
Yeah.
I think being back in college athletics, even though it was on the coaching side, I do think it pushed away some of those moments where I really did have to acknowledge that college athletics is over for me.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing the like Illinois State softball team come in and lift and stuff like that, like those are the types of things where I was like, dang, like I never really got to have like that last ride with it. But like I said, on the other hand, like I am really grateful because I feel like I got to still have some of those experiences with these kids as they went through their senior year, even if it was more in a coaching role and not in a player role like I thought it would be.
No, I love your perspective on it. And I have a very similar story because I'm not an emotional person. And so my senior night, I was so numb because I was deathly afraid of like just sports ending in general for me that I didn't even process it. I was so tuned out, like nothing came out. Normally people cry, they get emotional. I was probably a little crazy. And my sisters are athletes. And I remember my sister's senior night in college. I'm in the stands and I am just hysterical. And my mom is like, she and everybody, and I'm like, I just let it all out then, like the same process. Like I never really processed mine, but my sister's not only was I, you watch her from a teeny tiny age, so I'm processing my sister only being done, but then I was just like, I think I'm letting out my own stuff too. Like this is combined. So I definitely have that of just like I did not take time to process it. And then the time came, I'm sure I look crazy in the stands because they're like, calm down, this is not yours. But I was like, so I'm glad you shared that because now I feel a little less crazy of me having a little moment.
No, it like genuinely, I think it was like the first 2 or 3 years I worked as a coach in college. Like the senior nights always got me. My volleyball, I had volleyball at Middle Tennessee, and their senior night hysterical. I was like, oh my God, like at some point, girl, we gotta wrap this up. Like I don't know if you need to like write some shit down or what, but like we can't just be triggered every senior night for the rest of our lives.
That's what I'm saying. And my sister, God bless her, she did 6 years, so I lived through her. I don't care. I'll admit it. But her second, she ended up doing three times because she thought she was going to be done. But by her third senior night, um, I was good. I kept it together. I was not. But I tell you, I was just like, I don't know where these are coming from. Like, this is crazy. So, yeah, took me time to process that as well. Um, Okay, so with your journey with Illinois State, talk to
Mhm.
me about the grad assistantship and then finding your way because you have been able to work with professionals and um, be in, the upper division one level as well with division with Illinois State, excuse me. Talk to me about building that resume, what it was like. Were those the goals to just keep adding on?
So in I feel like being intentional with my resume started back in college when I was looking for different internships. I didn't start with it being intentional. Like my first internship, it was just like I went and interned for the prep facility that I worked out at before I left
Mm,
for college. And, they let me intern with them and then I could train there for free over the summer. And that was what we did. And from there, I got an internship with my college, which I remember my director at the time, they didn't take student interns. And so he's like, you need to write me like basically a cover letter and a resume and convince me why I should let a student intern here. And I
wow.
did. And he decided that he was finally going to let students intern. And so from there, that was when I was like, okay, like I have a D1, a small D1, I have private sector. I I don't know what possessed me at 20 years old to be like, now I just need the NFL. Like I don't know where I thought that that was just gonna like happen. But I guess that's what I in my head maybe it was like, just being a little bit naive about how the field works. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like I want professional and I would love to try a bigger program. And at that point I sort of realized like football is really where my passion lies within sports performance. And it just so happens that our head coach of Dartmouth at the time, Buddy Stevens, who was amazing, supported women in football. He was a big supporter of helping to build out our careers. And many women right now coaching in the NFL have gotten their start by working with Dartmouth football back in the day. So much gratitude to him. He
Yeah.
knew someone at the Rams, the LA Rams, and he had contacted them about me possibly interning. And how it works for Dartmouth is you do a what we call a sophomore summer. So after your sophomore year, your entire class stays on and you take your classes. You basically get like your first semester of your junior year out of the way right away. And then
Okay.
depending on what sport you play, whatever your off season is, so like for fall for softball, you have an opportunity to leave and you miss a full off season and you go study abroad, you go work, internships. But the goal is to like help you build your resume because obviously like being in Ivy League school, like they want you to walk out of there with a job. Like that's what they're here to
Yes.
help you do. I mean, the second you walk on campus there, they're helping you build out a resume and a cover letter. That's just how that
Mhm.
place works. And so I remember being at home and I got a call. I didn't know who the number was and I picked up and it was the vice president of business for the Rams who happened to be a Dartmouth football player. And he basically was like, why do you deserve to have an internship here?
Yeah.
And which I guess kind of parallels how I ended up at Colorado. But
Yes, we will build that.
and I just gave my honest answer. And so they ended up bringing me in like 2 days a week. And then they set me up with another internship at a private sector place, which was Kobe Bryant's place at the time, the Mamba Sports Academy. And they told me like, okay, you can like earn more time, more days. And that's what I did. But by the end of it, I was with the Rams every day. Um, and so that was kind of like how I started being intentional about it. After that, I went to Cal football and I was like, okay, like I feel like I've seen each piece of it and I have an idea of like what I want to continue to pursue. So when I got to Illinois State to bring it back, honestly, my first year at Illinois State was really, I was only there 1 year, I guess, in the end, but it was really difficult and I really struggled with the transition. It was
Mm,
really difficult to figure out how to communicate and coach, 24, 25-year-old guys as a like 22-year-old women who just came out of college.
yeah.
And it was also COVID and also the type of athlete that I was coaching at Dartmouth compared to the type of athlete that I was coaching at Illinois State was very different. And that
Mm,
was an adjustment on its own as well. Um, and, but I don't think there's ever been a moment where I haven't been intentional about the things that I go after. Like when I was at
yeah.
Illinois State, I was still looking at how can I create other opportunities. And that's when I looked into the Bill Walsh Fellowship and figured out how can I find an opportunity with this? How can I use my resources? And I felt like as I continued to be intentional, that's when the opportunities continue to pop up. And sometimes those opportunities were ones that maybe I didn't necessarily think were gonna come. Like for example, before I was at Colorado, I was at VCU with women's basketball. Never in a million
Yeah.
years did I think I was gonna end up in a women's basketball only position. Like I never saw that on the roadmap, but I'm very grateful for it. And that's a whole nother conversation. But
Yeah.
because I was intentional with my time at Middle Tennessee, I feel like it allowed me to be at VCU, and being at VCU allowed me to be at Colorado in a very roundabout way.
No, I love that, and I think that is so important for our young athletes is not only saying yes to opportunities and figuring out how to get your way in the door respectfully, and then also just, like, being intentional with some things. Like, it's okay to have a goal, and maybe there's gonna take steps. You might not reach it right away, but how can I get myself have that goal? How can I get myself there? So I think that's awesome. I do want to bring back this story of you and impromptu interviews, but I want to talk a little bit more on you being out of sport in that first year or two, with that sports journey. What was it like when that chapter hit you that softball was officially over, or is that something you still work through now in your life?
I think now in my life, I'm very at peace with it. I still
Mm,
love the sport. I love watching it. I like, getting to see it on TV and it really fills my heart to see how much it's grown and how excited people are about the World Series and all this type of stuff now. And it's
yeah,
cool because now you get a lot of coaches. I work with a lot of coaches who like their daughters play softball and things like that. When it ended, though, obviously, as we already discussed, it was very abrupt. So while mentally I was ready for it to be my last season, I wasn't ready for it to end like it did. And I honestly got
Yes.
pretty depressed. I remember being at home. I went home for about 3 months during COVID before I could move out to Illinois. And, no gyms. Okay, so great. Now I don't have softball and I can't go work out. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And that started my long distance running era, which lasted approximately the entire 3 months I was home, and then cut off the second I was allowed back in the weight room.
So no more.
Um, yeah, but that like genuinely became my escape. Was like maybe physically just trying to run away from the fact that my career was just over like that. And
Yeah.
that was really how I coped. But my first year at Illinois State, it was very difficult. There were some things that I wasn't, I think, really mentally prepared to handle. A big one being, the first time I moved away from home. So I moved from San Diego all the way to New Hampshire, but I moved into a team environment. I moved into a place where people were instantly watching out for me. And
Yes.
with Illinois State, I moved into a place where I know nobody, and they're looking at me to prove that I can handle working with football. And
Mhm.
I think that if you're a woman who works in any sort of male-dominated space, you definitely have those times when you're inside the building or inside that environment where you can you can feel people like trying to find things wrong or trying to figure out what you're not doing well.
Oh, yeah.
Whether that's true or not, I feel like every woman has had that experience where that's how they perceive the situation. And so I definitely had moments like that when I was at Illinois State. Like I said, that was just how I perceived it at the time, being young and trying to figure out how to succeed in an environment that was very new to me. And
Yeah.
I really struggled with it. I got really, really depressed my second semester there. I really struggled with in disordered eating while I was there. When I was in college, I was like 165 to like 167.
Mhm.
By my end of my last year at Illinois, or end of my year at Illinois State, I was 145 to 148. I lost
Wow.
a lot of strength, and I was like really restricting my calories and just kind of became obsessive over it. I developed panic attacks. I remember like I would have anxiety attacks like in the middle of coaching sessions,
Mm.
and I like didn't know how to handle it. And I remember having like my first anxiety attack, and I had never had one at all until I got to Illinois State and until I was in the second semester. And I remember having my first one, and like I didn't even understand what it was, so I didn't really like
Yeah.
say anything to anybody because I didn't know. And then I finally like explained it to a friend, and she was like, "Tess, like I think you had a panic attack." And so
Mhm.
I remember my second one very vividly because it was right in the middle. I was coaching men's tennis. I was the only coach in the building at the time, and I like all of a sudden was like trying to explain the lift, and I couldn't breathe, I couldn't talk, and I just like was thinking to myself like just get enough words out so they understand what's happening. And then I just
Yeah.
like stood in the middle of the floor for like a minute, and just like trying to breathe, trying to get it to pass, and then finished coaching the session because I didn't know what else to do at the
Yeah.
time. So that second semester especially was really really difficult. I was struggling to understand how to communicate with the staff. I was struggling with my mental health. I was struggling with my eating and my body image. I just felt like everything kind of came crashing down at once. And I was just like honestly focused on survival and being able to do my job and go to school. And I remember vividly coming home after that first year and explaining some of the things to my mom. And she was like,
Mhm.
Tess, like, why didn't you tell me that you were struggling this much? And it's like looking back at it now, it's like I didn't understand that I was struggling this much because it was just like a
Yes.
slow downward slide. And I'm by myself. So there's no one who knows me well enough to be able to tell, like, oh, Tessa's not doing well. Like, this is not the typical Tessa. Like, these people are all meeting me for the first time. For all they know, this is just how I am.
Yeah.
And I felt a lot of pressure to hide it. Like, this sounds this sounds dark, but like there would be days where I would like go sit in the bathroom and like have my panic attack or cry or whatever it may be, and then I, get up, put water on my face, and like go flip on the switch and coach a session and be happy and be bubbly because I was just like so focused on like I have to do my job, I have to survive, like I'll deal with this tomorrow. But tomorrow just kept getting pushed further and further on.
I'll personally in a second because like you're making me emotional. like, first and foremost, thank you so much for opening up and being that vulnerable because not only can I relate, I know that there are so many other athletes that you're gonna make them brave enough to ask for help because those are the exact most emotions that I felt and similar. And it was the same thing, I felt so crazy. I felt there's no one that's gonna understand that I cannot move on from this inanimate object. Like, I'm angry, I'm happy, I can't look at myself in the mirror, I'm, like, freaking out all the time, and it's like, how do I explain that to someone who's maybe never played a sport before? Like, and then I'm getting in my head of like, "Okay, you're crazy, like, no one else is going through that same experience." And I first started in the corporate setting. And so I'd come home and just sit in my bathroom floor and I would, put on a show for that how long I was in the office. And then I'd come home and just sit by myself in the bathroom and it would just be worse because then you're spiraling by yourself at night. Um, and like you said, you have to feel like you have to keep on a brave face of just like, I gotta get up. I gotta do my job. No one cares. No one will understand. And they're things that you put in your head, but in the moment they feel so real. Oh my goodness. So thank you. I'm getting chills because I'm like, oh my gosh, someone understands. Somebody's going through it. Um, and the eating thing too. It's crazy because you're used to this schedule of what I can eat, what I can't, and you're burning so many calories, and then it gets to the point where oh my gosh, I'm watching myself, and it might be healthy weight that you're gaining for the first time, and your body's changing, you're becoming more of a woman over and over, your body's constantly changing, we know this in the field, but in coming out of sports, you're like, "Oh, no, 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 no. I have to keep what I've maintained all these years."
Mhm.
So I will not go on a rant any longer, but thank you for sharing that side of it, um, and I'm so happy that you are here today to share that. Because I still need to be reminded that you are not alone in those feelings, so thank you.
No, I appreciate you giving me a space. I think when you reached out to me about doing this podcast, I was really excited because this isn't really like something I've gotten to talk about a lot, but I think especially for like female athletes, there's a lot of things
Yes.
that you're not prepared to handle. And I think a big one of those, like you just like the eating stuff, like all your body's goal has to been to perform and serve this purpose. And it's easy to kind of push off maybe some of those typical things that you think about for your body when you're 18, 19, 20, when you're in college
Yeah.
playing. But when you're not playing anymore, and then all of a sudden you're just like putting your body under a microscope and you don't really have context of like, how do I eat when I'm not playing? Like, how do I want to train? Do I want to train? What exercise do I want to do? And it's like you have, it sounds crazy, but it's like you all of a sudden have all this free will and it's like you don't even know how to like organize yourself because you've never had this much
Yes.
free will in your life. Like everything has been laid out for you for the last 4, 5, 6 years. And now it's like now I had to decide what to eat, when to eat, how to train, when to train, what do I like, what do I not like? Like I don't even know what I like and don't like. And it can be really overwhelming to sort through. And then I think like for me, which it's not their fault, but being around all full staff of men, like they weighed themselves for fun. And they'd like
Yeah.
they would like eat a meal and they'd be like, yes, like finally 225 today. And I'm like, okay. And like I had never stepped on a scale as much as I did as when I was at Illinois State. And like that definitely
Yeah.
was once again, like it had nothing to do with them. It was just like me. Like I became obsessive over like the number on the scale because it was the first time I had like seen a number go down like that. And I was like, oh, I kind of like being lean. But it went to a place where it was negative and I had to like learn how to and honestly I didn't even really hit a point where I started to correct. I don't know if correct's the right word, but I really came to the realization that like I had hit rock bottom with like my body image and like my eating issues until the next year when I was at Middle Tennessee State. And so it really took me almost a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years out of
Yeah.
college to really like be able to realize like I need guidance. Like I need help figuring out what does post athlete life look like for me because I can't figure this out on my own. I don't know how to do this and I don't know how to get myself out of the hole that I had dug.
Ooh. I mean, and the science backs that up too. The athletes that do struggle with life after sports, it can be anywhere from 3 months to 2.5 years, just because of all the things you're going to. and it's not a real word, but I with my athletes, we talk about a free will high. And at first, when I first was given all this, you feel great. You're like, "I get to make all these decisions, no one's telling me what to do, I can do anything I want," and it feels really good. And then after a while, when it sets in, and then it starts to get scary of, wait, no one's telling me what to do. Like, no one's making decisions for me. And it's on me. Like, it's not on a coaching staff. If they make a play and it messes up, like, if I mess up, this mistake is on me now. And um, it's it's all these things that you are pushed back because we are doing a sport, and some of these skills can we have them, but just not know that they're there until you're put in this situation. Whew, that was a lot, but I needed it. Thanks for sharing those experiences because I know other athletes have gone through them. And like you said, creating a space for men and women to know that if you are feeling like that, that there are avenues to ask for help and get help, and don't be afraid to ask. Um, there's always, if someone can't, we can lead you in the right direction. Whew.
Yeah, I think in a weird way, I'm really grateful for those experiences
Yes.
because I worked with a lot of female teams and I worked with just as many female athletes as I have, male athletes. And it has allowed me to, I feel like, be a better resource. And I try to, it took me a minute to get there and there's definitely like levels to it, but I try to share some of my experiences with my athletes just so they understand that they're not alone because you
Mhm.
do start to identify like, okay, I can tell this person's like a is pretty anxious or their behavior is off today or whatever. Their weight is dropping a lot and stuff like that. And so I feel
Yeah.
like it has allowed me to become a better coach in the end because I can connect with some of these athletes on things that maybe they don't feel super comfortable with. And even like my male athletes, like I'll be pretty open with them about the fact that I still to this day like will get panic attacks every once in a while. Like it still happens, just now I have the tools to better handle it and I know I have the support system to lean on if it's something I can't just handle myself that day. And even if like an athlete never tells me like, hey, I also experienced this, my hope is especially for the male athletes, like they know like just because they're not alone, like we said.
Yes.
Like, there's
No.
other people who are even if we don't have to talk about it, and we may never talk about it, but I just want them to know, even if they don't feel comfortable talking about it, like there's other people out there who are experiencing what they're experiencing, and they don't need to feel isolated all the time about it.
100%. And I feel like when I started this business and what I wanted to help, it was starting to do the research late at night of, okay, I couldn't say it out loud, but I would look it up on the internet, and realizing that hundreds and thousands of other athletes were going through the same thing. It was like this weight that was lifted off my shoulder of like, finally, I know I'm not crazy. Now, what do I need to do? And like you said, sometimes it's never saying anything or speaking to someone, but just knowing that you're not alone in what you're struggling with is so important. So I know that your athletes definitely appreciate that. All right. I want to transition, if you are ready,
Yeah, let's
um,
do it.
to your position now. We're gonna have to have you on again because I have so many questions that I have not had time to get through. So this is um my interview to get you back on.
I'm in. I'm sold
Let's
already. Let's do it.
Yes. All right. So you mentioned a little bit about some impromptu interviews. If you know anything about Tessa or followed her story, if not, you can find it on the internet. She's a beast. And impromptu speeches have come up again in her life, with her current position now. Would you tell us a little bit about that story as well and where you're coaching?
Yeah, so right now I'm currently an assistant strength coach for Colorado football, which for me has been like a dream position. I've been, I'm a West Coast girl too, so, and I've always loved Colorado. How this position came up was a little bit of a whirlwind. I actually first heard about the position. I had just taken the job at VCU. So I was the director of women's basketball sports performance at VCU for a year. I took that job in the summer of 2024. Yeah. And I had heard that they were, looking for possibly hiring a female in Colorado. And then I didn't really hear much because they got into season, life gets busy, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And cue back to, or circle back to, let's see, what was it? I think it was February. Yeah, February of 2025, and I had one of my former like kind of mentors reach out to me, and they were like, "Hey, are you interested in this position?" They called me asking for names, and I want to put your name in. And I was like, "Yes, absolutely, like put my name in." And I
Yes.
didn't really hear much, and like I circled back. I was like, "Hey, have you like heard anything about this? Because I would really like to be interviewed."
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't really hear much, honestly, for another couple weeks. So at that point, I kind of just assumed, like, okay, they must have moved forward with other candidates. Or if they ended up hiring someone else, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you work in the college sports performance world, there's a lot of times where you'll get a lead and then it just doesn't work out. Maybe I've had it where I was interviewing for something and then admin ended up just like nixing the position altogether. So, like, you just like never really know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we were walking out of the hotel to go to our first conference game with VCU, and I got the
Mhm.
call and they were like, "Hey, basically like, what are you doing next week? We want you to come on an in-person interview to Colorado." And I hadn't
Mhm.
heard anything in like a month. So I'm just like, "What the heck?" Like,
Yeah.
okay. And not to mention like I'm with my current team trying to like get out to the bus with them. Like we're trying to like go win a conference tournament.
Yeah.
Um, and so, end up going on the interview. When I came on the interview, it was three of us actually. And I kind of had a feeling that there was going to be I knew I had a feeling of who else would probably be interviewing for the position.
Mm.
And sure enough, I walk in at 6 a.m. and I see two other people sitting there. One of them happens to be, her name is Morgan Cote. She got hired along with me, so we're both now at Colorado, but we had known each other through the field. Women working in football sports performance is a pretty small world, so everyone kind of
Yeah.
knows each other to a certain degree. And we, locked eyes at 6 a.m. and I was like, wow, okay, we're interviewing together today. Like that's what's about to happen here.
Yep.
And we got walked into the team room, and at this point, I had been on campus for maybe 15 to 20 minutes. Like, I met our director very briefly, but I really hadn't done anything official. No one really knew who I was. I was just some random person, in
Yeah.
some business attire standing against the wall in the team meeting room. And it was their first or second day of spring ball, I believe. So he had some of the other female staff members come up and introduce themselves, and he was like, okay, even people interviewing, like, y'all come up. So we introduced ourselves, and I'm thinking, like, okay, that's it. And then if you've seen the video, Coach Prime looks at us and goes, okay, so why should I hire you? Like, why should you work here in front of the entire team and entire staff? And I blacked out. I remember taking a deep breath, and I feel like if you've played college athletics, you like have learned the ability to just like black out and just like throw yourself into something
Oh, yes.
because
Oh, yes.
you just have to. You have to be able to figure out how to have that skill and like turn off your brain for a second. And
Mhm.
while I'm grateful for it because it came in handy, and so that was what that moment was. I was like, okay, like took a deep breath, just started talking, really kind of had no idea where I was going, but just like tried to speak from the heart.
Yeah.
And I said what I said, and I stepped back, and I remember the other Morgan spoke her piece, and we walked off, and I was like, I really hope what I said was just good because I have no idea what just came out of my mouth. Um,
Yeah.
what I did not know was I did not know that that was going to go on social media. So I thought, okay, whatever I said is left in that room or there. Like I knew that it was being recorded, but I just like I didn't think about it. That was like the least of my
Yeah.
concerns during that day.
Right.
And so I was sitting waiting for my plane ride home that night, and Morgan texted me and she was like, dude, it's on YouTube. And I was like, no, it's not. I'm not watching it. I can't. Like this has to be the
Yeah.
cringiest thing I've ever seen ever. I can't. I'm not gonna watch myself. I can't do it. Because if you know me, I actually am like not a huge social media person. Like I don't really like being on camera. I don't like I'm not that type of person usually.
Yeah.
Anyways, so she watched it for us and she's like, it looks good. I was like, okay, cool, great. Go home that
Yeah.
night, wake up the next morning, and that clip had been put on TikTok and it went viral. And I
It did.
had a lot of people texting me being like, so you getting hired by Colorado? I was like, listen, I don't know yet, so stay tuned. But I had like Yeah, I mean, even I remember one of my players from BCU texted me and she was like, "Coach Tess, are you leaving us?" I was like, "No, no, 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 no. Don't worry about
This is
that."
mock.
Yeah, because like at that point, like I didn't know anything yet. I was like, I did the interview and
Right.
now I go, I'm gonna go back to my job, and that's as far as I knew. But yeah, it was probably the craziest interview experience I've had.
If you haven't seen that video, I know it's gonna make you cringe, Tessa, but all my people wanting jobs or maybe interested in this field or just in general, watch it because, I mean, it's just the thing we learn as athletes all the time. You stay ready so you never have to get ready. And even if you black out, you were able to put those instances together. And I told her before we even started this, because of course I watched that video, and I was sitting there like, girl, I will hire you. I don't know what job, but and both of them killed it. Both of them killed the interview, and it was just awesome to see um, women in the field just doing the dang thing. So I was very impressed, and I know so many other people were women, men, women. They were just like, wow. So you got my vote.
Thank you.
Um, so with that decision, and we've already prefaced that she did end up getting the assistant strength and conditioning coaching job, which was amazing. What has it been like seeing yourself now coaching a couple years in the industry and being an athlete? Are there parallels? Do you see that athlete side of you show up in your coaching?
Yes. As an athlete, I was never like your hype person by any means. I was more
Yeah.
of like your even keel, like pretty cool, calm and collected most of the time, but like a very intense person. And I feel like a very competitive person as well. And I think
Hmm.
that really translates into my coaching persona as well. I do think that my coaching persona is more probably outgoing than I am on like my day to day. Like day to day, I'm
Yeah.
definitely more of like an introverted human being. But when I step on the floor, it's like almost like a little bit of an alter ego because it's
Yes.
like the most like bubbly, extroverted, outgoing version of myself. And that took a while to build the confidence to portray myself that way because it's
Yeah.
still an authentic version of me. It's just a version that really comes out when I'm in a coaching environment.
Hmm.
And I think that my coaching career has really challenged me in a different way than maybe my playing career did to learn how to be authentic in a lot of different environments. I mean, working with football to women's basketball, like that's very, very different environments. So figuring out how to show up authentically in both of those environments, but also meet the needs of like what the environments, those teams, those coaching staffs need. I think that has been like a huge growing experience. Whereas with an athlete, like you're still going through that same growing process because yes, like maybe what the team needs from you from year to year changes, and for me it definitely did from being a
Hmm.
freshman to like being a senior captain, but you're with the same essentially group of people, yes, like maybe a couple people come in and out, freshmen come in, seniors leave, coaches change, but like the base of your program is the same for your 4 or 5 years. And
Yeah.
so you're able to grow within somewhat of a contained environment. But like when I was at Middle Tennessee, like I'd be with football for 1 hour, then I'd be at basketball practice for 45 minutes, then I'd be back into a football lift with the red shirts. And it's like, how do you bounce through all those places and be able to figure out how to give everyone what they need at a very, very quick pace? And so
Hmm.
that aspect of it is a lot different than just being an athlete.
I'd agree. I'll be the first person to tell you, like, my job makes me an extrovert. I'm an introvert made extrovert. So I think everybody in my life is used to it now, but they would see me in these lights and be like, that's Mickey. Because I turn it on. It's like you step on a stage and I'm a totally
Exactly.
it's still part of me, but I still feel like it's a different person, like you said, like maybe an alter ego or something where I step on stage, the lights are on, I'm there, I'm in it, I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
But if you'd see me in any day setting, probably even in the grocery store, you'd be like, there is no way there's a voice on that girl. Like, she probably does not talk. And I like it. I like it that way. I'm like, just wait till you put me in that situation. But no, I definitely agree with that too. All right. I got two more questions for you because I don't, again, want to kidnap you all day.
You're good.
Um,
I got time today. I got time.
um, I want to, we have a fast break series. So we ask a bunch of fun questions, no thinking. You just have to answer them. So we'll go through that and then our closer, and we're getting her back on, audience. So whatever you got to do when you see this episode, she has to come back on. All right. For the first question,
Hmm.
what was your favorite walk up song back in the day?
Oh shoot. Um, my walk-up song was El Chapo by The Game.
Re-
Um,
I love that song. Wait, with the intro?
I don't even remember what part I used because I know I worked hard to find whatever clean part there was of that song.
I was gonna
Um,
say.
but that was, and then I think any classic rock song is always a solid go-to walk-up song. So, yeah.
I'd agree. Best road trip memory from softball.
My first road trip with the team, for conference, what we would do is you had to do what we called like bus karaoke, and you would put your headphones on and you picked a song and you had to sing the song. And then obviously you could hear the music, but no one else could hear the music. And it's kind of ironic that this is one of my favorite memories because I actually have like an intense fear of singing in public and like singing in front of people. But
Yeah.
it was like everyone was doing it. And so obviously like you try to pick a song. I wasn't dumb. I was like, I'm gonna pick a song that people want to join in on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I can't even remember what song I did, but I do remember that me and my teammate did a duet at one point and we did the High School Musical song in the first one where they're like on stage. I can't remember the name of the song at this point.
Yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah.
Soren, I think, whatever. But we did a whole High School Musical duet in the middle of the bus aisle, like on the way home from UPenn, and it's like still one of my favorite memories to this day.
I love that. And I'm like freaking out, thinking like they can hear it. I'd be off so off pitch. One teammate you could that could always make you laugh.
Oh, Logan Thomas, that's like my best friend to this day. That girl, me and her, we knew we were gonna be best friends from the second we met coming into college, and to this day, like it could be 4 months and she'll call me or we'll call each other and catch up, and it's like nothing's even changed and we're cracking up. Like that's my girl.
Of go to food spot after a game.
Ooh, probably In and Out. I've really been feeling In and Out lately.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
I think it's
This is
my
judgment free zone.
I listen, I think it's my SoCal roots. Like that's just like it brings back
Yeah,
so many good memories. Like I know people, okay, listen, I know people shit on In and Out because they're like it's not that great of a burger, the fries aren't good, whatever you want to say about it, but there's something very nostalgic about it. Like we would go to the beach all day, you'd get In and Out on the way home. Like it's just like
yeah,
it's like a SoCal culture type of thing. And so having it available to me again after being on the East Coast and in the South for the last 8, 9 years, it just like
yeah.
it's a good time now.
Okay, I respect it now. I respect the decision. Finish this sentence. I'm not done because.
I'm not done because there is still a lot of walls to break down. And I'm extremely grateful for all the women who came before me and allowed me these opportunities. But I want to see a lot more women come after us. And yeah, so that's why I'm not done.
Love it. All right, last final question. This might be the hardest one of the day. I always ask our guests if you had one piece of advice you could have gave your younger self or something that you just wanted to share with former or current athletes, what would it be?
Someone gave me this piece of advice, and it really changed the way that I thought about my career choices and the way that I navigated the positions I was in. And honestly, probably advice someone had given me many times before, but it was probably a point in my life where I was actually ready to hear that and apply it.
Yeah.
When I interned with the Jets, I was really struggling at that point to kind of figure out what comes after Middle Tennessee. I felt like it was getting time to move on, and I also was not really getting a lot of traction in Power Four football at the time. And I was frustrated because I felt like I was ready for an opportunity to prove I could handle coaching at that level, but I just like it wasn't the right time yet for me.
Mm,
And I remember one of the assistants there, one of the strength coaches, he was like, Tess, like you don't have to follow this specific timeline. Like it doesn't have to be you're going from being, a mid-major football assistant to now you're a P4. So I think at that time I was like, it has to be chronological. Like this is how it's supposed to go. This is the timeline. And he was like, this He's like, "This shit can look like however you want. Like, there's so few of y'all doing this right now. Like, you can make this look like however you want. No one says you got to go straight to P4 football. You could take a whole left turn and come back around, and as long as it makes sense for you, like, it works for you." So in short, the advice was like, you can make this look like however you want. There's not one specific way for you to get to where you want to go. And I think that totally changed how I thought about the choices I was making in my career. And ultimately, I think that's what led me to take a basketball position. And like, I had a clear understanding of like why I was taking it. But I had a lot of people come up to me being like, "Are you done with football? Like, why are you leaving football? I can't believe you're leaving football." And I was like, "No, no, no, no. Like, don't get it twisted. It's all part of the bigger plan. I promise." And
Stick with
it
me.
was. But yeah, so I think like to all the athletes out there, like it can look like however you want it to look like. It doesn't have to be one way just because that's what's been done or that's what someone told you it needs to look like. Like only you really know where you're trying to go, and as long as you have a reason and you have faith in the choices that you're making are going to contribute to where you're trying to go in the end, that's all you really need.
Whew, you've been leaving me speechless multiple times today. That was great advice, and I think I need to hear it sometimes too. Anybody's path, it's like there's no written. You're not going to be the same as someone in front of you or behind you. It's your own path.
Hmm.
Love
And
it.
that doesn't mean like you don't doubt yourself. Like I still have a lot
Yeah,
of moments of doubt and moments where I have to like really double down and remind myself like, using this mentality or using this thought process has gotten you to all these amazing places or at least given you the opportunity to, earn more opportunities. But
yeah.
there's definitely moments of doubt where you have to double down and like continue to put your head down and have faith in how you're navigating your spaces.
Thank you so much, Tessa, for being here today. You've been amazing. Is there anything else you want to leave our audience with?
No, thank you so much for having me and thanks for giving me a space to be vulnerable and honest and open. And I guess if anyone, wants to discuss any of the topics that I talked about today, like, or you're trying to pursue a career in strength and conditioning and don't know how to get started or where to go, like, feel free to reach out. I really try to respond to everyone because there was some really great coaches who gave me the time of day and helped me navigate things really early in my career, and I'm really grateful for it because I didn't have to do that, and I
Yeah.
want to, extend the same energy forward.
Thank you. Thank you. If you all liked episodes like this, make sure that you are having notifications turned on and subscribed, and we will be back.